Hello and welcome all of you. I am Samapti Sinha Mahapatra, your zoology teacher teaching in Sri Chaitanya Institute. Students, we were talking about the chapter Chemical Coordination and Integration, and we have discussed a lot of glands, and we finished adrenal gland I think in the last class, but we were left with some of the disorders which we are going to start in today's class first. So let us look at, I think there were two divisions that I made regarding the disorders of the adrenal gland. One was regarding the hyposecretion and other was regarding the hypersecretion. Also, I mentioned the names of each one of disorders. Let's look at the details of both the disorders. Now, looking at the first one, which says hyposecretion, which you are now very well familiar of. Hyposecretion means a low secretion of the hormone, whatever we are talking about. So, hyposecretion under we have one disorder, that is Addison's disease. We are talking about Addison's disease, which is because of the low level of the hormone. But which hormones are we talking about? Now, I have written that in majority of the cases, these are the autoimmune disorders, and we already know what are autoimmune disorder because we have done two autoimmune disorders in thyroid gland. Can anyone of you recall what were the two disorders? One was Hashimoto's disease and other was the exophthalmic goiter. So, any autoimmune disorders, you're going to attack your own body cells. Now, looking at this autoimmune disorder, when I say, so this causes destruction of adrenal cortex, students. What we are destructing is the adrenal cortex. And once you are destructing your adrenal cortex, which was producing very, very important hormones, what is happening is mainly there is low level of cortisol. Cortisol was a glucocorticoid, if you are able to remember that, and it is also going to cause low level of aldosterone. So basically, destruction of the adrenal cortex is seen in case of Addison's disease, and that leads to very, very low level of cortisol and low level of aldosterone. Next, I have written the symptoms, but students, I told you, if you remember the function of all the hormones, it would be very, very easy for all of you to know the symptoms that you see if it is a hyposecretion of that particular hormone or hypersecretion of that particular hormone. Since in this case, we have low level of cortisol and low level of aldosterone, all the functions performed by these two hormones will be decreased. So, let us see what are the common symptoms. Okay, this is one of the symptoms that in the patient suffering from Addison's disease, there is a bronze pigmentation, abnormal skin seen in these type of patients. Also along with this, what you will see is the low blood sugar, low blood glucose. Why? Because the glucocorticoid cortisol is less, whose function was to increase the blood glucose level. Now, once this is not there or this is present in low amount, what you will see is low blood sugar level. Also, there would be a low sodium ion concentration in the blood, there would be a decreased blood volume, there would be a decreased blood pressure, and there would be increase in potassium ions in your blood plasma. You can easily relate it with the aldosterone. Why? Because aldosterone is not in good amount, and aldosterone reabsorbs the Na+, it also reabsorbs the water passively, right? So, if you are not having aldosterone in enough amount, what you won't be having is now sodium ions. What you won't be having is the enough water in your blood. Blood volume decreases, blood pressure decreases, you might be having even overall decreased cardiac output. But since potassium ions were excreted with the help of aldosterone, the level of potassium ions will be higher. That's about the first Addison's disease. Now, talking about the other category, which is hypersecretion. When I am talking about hypersecretion, I mean to say there would be in any way increase in the level of hormone. Talking about the first one, Cushing's syndrome. The syndrome is Cushing's syndrome. Now, what is this Cushing's syndrome? A tumor of the adrenal cortex. Now, students, in Addison's, we destructed the adrenal cortex. But in case of Cushing's syndrome, what is happening? Tumor is forming. What is a tumor? Tumor means in any possible way, there is the increase in number of cells. When there is an increase in number of cells, obviously the level of the hormone will be higher. I have told you the definition of tumor in simple terms. So increase in number of cells means adrenal cortex tumor is going to produce too much of cortisol. The level of cortisol is too much. But since you see the tumor in the cortex, so along with cortisol, there would be some amount of increase in the other hormone, which is a mineralocorticoid, that is aldosterone. Now, exactly opposite you can do if you have high amount of cortisol, high amount of aldosterone, your blood sugar level will be higher, your sodium ions will be higher, but potassium that was excreted out will be now lower, your blood volume will be increased, your blood pressure would be increased. So, you can say that Addison in some terms is opposite when you're talking about the symptoms. One is the hypersecretion, other is the hypersecretion. If you remember the functions of all the hormones, you would be easily able to do the symptoms, which are quite very easy. So now let us look upon the other disorders related with the hypersecretion of the adrenal hormone. The other disorder, one was the Cushing's, and then you are seeing here aldosteronism or Conn's syndrome. Now since I've already told you that this is a category under hypersecretion, and the name itself is suggesting you which corticoid will be high in amount. As the name is suggesting, aldosteronism. So the aldosterone, which is the mineralocorticoid, will be in very high amount. So that is why we see what's the reason. So tumor in the adrenal cortex may, if it specifically leads to production of too much of aldosterone, that too much of aldosterone, have in bracket written independent of RAS. Have you heard of this RAS earlier somewhere? RAS, you must have come across this RAS in your excretory system, which stands for renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Am I right if you have heard of this term or not? Renin angiotensin aldosterone system. Why am I saying that this is exactly going to be independent of the RAS system is because we know that aldosterone amount is regulated with this system. Now, since you have a tumor, you have no control over it. Too much of aldosterone, the functions will be too much. What I have written is very easy now for you. Increased blood sodium ion, increased blood volume, increased blood pressure, but there would be a decreased potassium ions in the blood. So too much of aldosterone, all the functions will be enhanced. Now looking at the other, which is adrenal viralism, again this is the last condition of the hypersecretion of the adrenal hormone. Talking about adrenal viralism, this is specifically the too much increase in the sex corticoids. When there is a too much increase in the sex corticoids or the gonadocorticoids, eventually the functions will be increased. But students, you should know that these too much of gonadocorticoids are showing more effects in a female. Why? Because if you remember, I told you, when you say gonadocorticoids, it's much of androgens. And when there is a much of androgens, what is happening is the characteristics of androgens you see. In a male, you also have testes. We are going to discuss the hormone of testes. They have already testosterone. They have androgens. So there you won't see much effect of too much of androgens. But since in a female, don't have androgens, and if there is androgen level increase with the help of adrenal viralism, what you will see is the masculinization like a male, the muscles development like a male, too much of facial hair, too much of overall body hair. Also deepening of voice. What you usually see in a male, all those characteristics will be seen in a female. So if you want to conclude, you can just remember as the disorders of the adrenal gland, the hyposecretion consists of the Addison's disease, the hypersecretion consists of Cushing's, where too much of cortisol was there mainly. When you talk about another condition of hyper, that's aldosteronism, too much of aldosterone, specifically talking about adrenal viralism, too much of gonadocorticoids. That's how we finish the different disorders related with the adrenal gland. Now, looking at the next gland, which is pancreas, let us look at the different properties of pancreas, the diagram of the pancreas, and the different hormones related with it. Now, looking at the pancreas, the very first point that I have mentioned, that it's a heterocrine gland or it's a mixed gland. Now, when we say it's a heterocrine gland or it's a mixed gland, we mean to say that it consists of both exocrine part and the endocrine part. Now, looking at the exocrine part separately and the endocrine part separately, but which part consists of the maximum portion of the pancreas? Actually, when you look at the percentage, the exocrine part of the pancreas is 99%, whereas the endocrine part is only 1%. There are two different names given for the exocrine part. I mean, two different names for different parts of the pancreas. For the exocrine, they have given a name called as cells of acini. I will be discussing the cells of acini in the diagram, but just remember the name here. The exocrine part is called as cells of acini, whereas the endocrine part is called as, I have written on this side of the board, islets of Langerhans. Exocrine part, cells of acini or acinar cells. The endocrine part is called as islets of Langerhans. Now, looking at the transverse section of pancreas, let's look at this beautiful diagram and understand both the parts of the pancreas. Can you see this beautiful orange color flower-like structures? Actually, these flower-like structures is the cells of acini, which we just now discussed that this is the exocrine part, and we must have discussed the function of cells of acini somewhere, if you can remember, in the digestion. The functions of cells of acini is actually secretion of the digestive juice, secretion of the pancreatic juice. But in this chapter, we are going to discuss about the different hormones. And when I say hormones, that means we are going to discuss about the endocrine part or the islets of Langerhans. Islets of Langerhans, students, they have got different types of cells. It has got different types of cells. Alpha cells, beta cells, delta cells, F cells. Looking at the center of the diagram, can you see some colorful structures with white, with blue, with pink and with yellow? This I have labeled the different cells of islets of Langerhans. Looking at the diagram also, you can easily tell me that the white color cells are more in number. Actually, students, the beta cells, also called as the B cells of islets of Langerhans, is maximum contributing to 71% of the total islets of Langerhans. After that, can you see these blue color cells which are second most, highest in number, that is the alpha cells, also called as capital A cells, percentage is 17%. When you look at the other cells, which is called as delta cells or F cells, also called as PP cells, I'll tell you why it is called as PP cells. PP cells actually means pancreatic polypeptide. It means pancreatic polypeptide. So, remaining percentage of the cells is the delta cells or the F cells. I hope you are clear with the different cells. Alpha cells, beta cells, delta cells, FF cells or the F cells, which is also called as PP cells. Now, looking at the different cells and their different hormones, okay, I'm going to tell you each hormone and I'm going to tell you which part or which cell secrete which hormone. Now, looking at the hormones first, on top again I have written the endocrine part's name, islets of Langerhans. Now, the very first hormone that we are going to talk about is very important for all of you for the functioning of the body, that is glucagon. It's not glycogen, students, it is glucagon. In bracket what I have written is it is hyperglycemic. Word meaning of hyper that we know now very well is too much, it means increased. When I say hyper and I say glycemic, glycemic is related with glucose. Now students, very important to pay attention only to this term. Why am I saying this is because when you understand what is hyperglycemic, you can easily tell me what are the functions. Also, if you know the functions of glucagon, you will be knowing the function of insulin. Why? Because both the hormones are antagonists to each other. Antagonist means opposite to each other. So, pay attention while I am saying the functions of glucagon, because in mind you can easily do the functions of insulin exactly opposite. Alright, so I said it's a hyperglycemic hormone, means it is going to do all the processes that is going to increase your blood sugar level or blood glucose level. The very first point I have written is that which cells among all the cells of islets of Langerhans is responsible for production of glucagon. The alpha cells or the A cells is responsible for the production of the glucagon. Also, looking at the different processes through which it is going to increase your blood glucose level, it is going to promote glycogenolysis. Now, looking at the term glycogenolysis, glycogen and lysis means breakdown. So, whenever you are going to break down the glycogen, you are going to release what? You are going to release glucose into your bloodstream. That means increasing the blood sugar level, promoting glycogenolysis. Along with that, it is also causing proteolysis and it is also causing lipolysis, breakdown of protein and breakdown of fats. Alright, it is going to promote gluconeogenesis. Do you remember? Do you remember yesterday we already discussed in the previous class what is gluconeogenesis? When I say glucogenesis, that means generation of glucose simply by the carbohydrate source. But I told you that whenever you use the term neo, that means generation of glucose definitely, but from a non-carbohydrate source, which may be fat, which may be protein. That's the process called as gluconeogenesis. But whatsoever is the process, the ultimate result will be increase in the blood glucose. Now, looking at the next, it inhibits glycogenesis. Now, pay attention, glycogenesis. Glycogen, genesis means generation. And now, when you are definitely going to say that glycogenesis, that means formation of glycogen. If you are forming glycogen, students, that means you are taking all the glucose away from your blood. Is it going to result in the increased blood sugar level? No. That means you need to stop glycogenesis so that blood sugar level is high. I mean, that's what your glucagon actually does. Also, it is going to inhibit the cellular uptake of glucose. What is the cellular uptake of glucose, students? If these cells are using glucose, that means blood sugar level is lower. But glucagon never does that. Glucagon increases blood sugar level, so it is always going to inhibit the cellular uptake of glucose. Concluding everything, make sure you do all the processes in favor which is going to result in the increase in concentration of glucose in the blood. You stop all the processes that is going to inhibit the increased level of glucose in the blood. These are the functions of the first hormone, glucagon. Now, talking about another very important hormone, that is insulin. Yes, very important hormone for our body as well. Now, exactly opposite to the glucagon, I won't repeat the definitions again. Just look at and understand it yourself. You're going to understand it very easily. Now, in bracket of insulin, I've written that it is hypoglycemic. Hypoglycemic means it is going to decrease the blood glucose level. It is going to favor all the processes that reduces blood sugar level. It is going to favor all the processes that is going to decrease the blood sugar level. And let us see how it is going to do that. First of all, it is going to be produced by beta cells in your body. It is going to inhibit glycogenolysis. Definitely it's not going to promote the breakdown of glycogen because that causes increased blood sugar level. So inhibits glycogenolysis. It inhibits gluconeogenesis. Definitely you don't want glucose in your blood. So it inhibits the gluconeogenesis. It inhibits any other processes like glucogenesis, that is the generation of glucose from any carbohydrate source. So it's going to inhibit glycogenolysis, gluconeogenesis as well as glucogenesis because all these processes increases blood glucose level. Talking about the promotion, it promotes glycogenesis. Definitely it going to promote the glycogenesis. Why? Because it is going to take away all the sugar from your blood and deposit it on the liver. Now talking about liver, the major action of the insulin is definitely on your hepatocytes and your fat cells, adipocytes. It mainly acts upon your liver cells, hepatocytes, and it also acts upon your adipocytes, which is your fat cells. Now, when it acts upon the hepatocytes or adipocytes, it favors the cellular uptake of glucose. It takes away all the glucose from the blood and says your cells to please utilize that. So, that's the exact opposite function to that of glucagon performed by insulin. Now, very small hormones, somatostatin and pancreatic polypeptide. So, the somatostatin is produced by the delta cell and simple function of the somatostatin is to inhibit the secretion of insulin and glucagon. So, somatostatin inhibit the secretion of insulin and glucagon. Talking about the last, which is pancreatic polypeptide, it is produced by the PP cells or F cells, that is pancreatic polypeptide cells, and its function is to inhibit the secretion of the pancreatic juice. So, this somatostatin inhibits secretion of insulin and glucagon, and the pancreatic polypeptide inhibits the secretion of pancreatic juice. Alright students, now let us look at the disorders related with the pancreatic gland. Very common disorder we all have heard of. In families we very commonly heard my grandmother is having sugar, this relative is having sugar. What is this sugar? You're talking about diabetes, right? But do you remember we have already discussed a type of diabetes that was called as diabetes insipidus. If you recall, diabetes insipidus was related with the hormone of hypothalamus stored in the pituitary. That was vasopressin. Alright, just go through your notes and revise that. We are talking about diabetes mellitus, and we are talking about mellitus. Mel means honey, that means sweet, that means urine is sweet. Though nobody has tasted the urine, but why it becomes sweet is because of the excessive amount of glucose released through the urine. Now let us see what is the condition when the person is actually said to suffer from diabetes mellitus. It's a prolonged hyperglycemic condition. It's a prolonged hyperglycemic condition, means prolonged level of sugar is high in the patient's blood. Now, why the too much of sugar level is high in the patient? Let us see that. And when we say too much, how much is too much? We say that the amount of sugar is more than 180 milligram in per 100 ml of your blood. That's when the person is suffering from diabetes mellitus. Alright, now since the blood sugar level is too much, why the blood sugar level is too much is because cells are not able to utilize the glucose, which may be because of maybe insulin is not produced or insulin is not able to work. Once this condition is there, your blood sugar level is not utilized, so how are you going to then produce energy? That's when you're going to use fat and proteins. Because sugar is not utilized by cells, your cells will die, but not happening that way. What you're doing is breaking down your proteins, breaking down your fats to produce energy. Once you start breaking down your fats, that is the process called as beta oxidation, what you start producing is the ketone bodies. And those ketone bodies start coming out of the urine. That is called as ketonuria. So, not using glucose, using protein and fats, breaking down of fats causes the production of ketone bodies coming out of urine called as ketonuria. But there is also one more other condition that is seen in the diabetic patient, that is glycosuria. Definitely too much of glucose beyond the threshold level in your blood is going to come out through your urine. That condition is called as glycosuria, when the blood sugar glucose comes out of your urine. Additionally, what other symptoms do you see is polydipsia and polyuria. When you say polydipsia, excessive thirst. And why this excessive thirst is seen is because your kidneys are not able to absorb water, and too much of water is going to be released out of your urine. That condition is polyuria. Too much of loss of water through your kidneys as they are not able to reabsorb water is polyuria, which is seen along with polydipsia, that is known as the excessive thirst. So, glycosuria, that is glucose coming out of urine, ketonuria, that is ketone bodies coming out of through urine, polydipsia, which is excessive thirst, polyuria, that is the excessive water loss through urine, are some of the symptoms that you see in the patients suffering from diabetes mellitus. But students, why happening diabetes mellitus? Actually, when you are talking about diabetes mellitus, this is of two types. There are two conditions of diabetes mellitus. One is type 1 and the other is type 2. Diabetes mellitus type 1 and diabetes mellitus type 2. These are the two types of diabetes mellitus. We are going to discuss these two types of diabetes mellitus in our next class, but till then, just pay attention to the condition which causes diabetes mellitus. We will be back soon. Till then, take care. Tata, bye-bye.